Welcome to another Döhle Yachts coffee break. My name is Joe Sale, I'm the Technical Director, and today I'm here to ask our Fleet Statutory Manager Ben Geary a couple of questions about type approval certificates.
Morning, guys.
So Ben,
Yes.
what's the importance of having a type approval certificate for a product that we find on board a boat?
I think the main thing from any type of approval certificate is it kind of gives you reassurance that it's been approved and reviewed by someone, okay? So saying type approval is a pretty broad statement. The first thing I would suggest is mainly to make sure that if you have a type approval certificate, that it is a marine type approval certificate, you know? So the first thing to do, obviously all the vessels that we're looking at, you know, your various Yachts class members, but you've got Lloyd's, DMV, RENA, or to name but a few. Generally they will have their own type approval process system that will give you a type approval certificate. So yeah, for the main thing, to answer your question, is it basically reassures the individual that component, whatever it may be, has met a set of certain rule standards.
And you mentioned some of the classification societies there. Are there any examples of equipment that may be issued a type approval certificate by another organisation other than a classification society?
Yeah, so I think the classic one that everyone will have heard of is either MED or the wheel mark. So those certificates generally were brought about for European flag vessels, and they're generally looked at for safety equipment. So kind of fire, LSA, so life-saving appliances, they're the kind of key ones. But generally, because of the standards they use and the IMO codes that they follow, most flags will accept those as an equivalence to a type approval certificate. So yeah, so they will follow, so you know, LSA equipment will follow the LSA code, fire equipment will either follow the FTP code or the FSS code.
So is it fair to assume then that whether we get a type approval certificate from an IACS classification society or we get one that says MED on it, they would have been to the same standards, the same technical standards?
Generally, yes. So, you know, especially when we're looking at the kind of safety equipment, so your fire or your LSA are the key items that are on board. From my point of view anyway, but so yeah, so generally they will be reviewing the FTP code, they will be reviewing the FSS code, SOLAS. They may have their own rule interpretations within the classifications rules, but generally they're very similar, and also they will rely on the international standard codes, such as, you know, the SOLAS, the FTPs, the FSS codes. So generally, yes, they are going to be. And also, you know, the IACS members, you know, they follow the same system. So you may find that the supplier has a number of certificates. So they may have an MED certificate, they may even have a US Coast Guard certificate, they may have a RENA, they may have a Lloyd's, they may have a DMV certificate. So again, depending on what you're building, is to ask the manufacturers for the certificates.
If we did go down the route of having a MED certificate,
Yep.
can you talk us through the markings that we may find on the actual equipment itself?
Yeah, so your wheel, basically the first thing to look for, like actually we've recently been on board a vessel and we were looking at dampers, they will have a wheel mark stamped on the side of the damper. So that's your first indication. It's like the classic old kind of galleon wheel that you would look for. Now all equipment that has an MED certificate will have that stamp somewhere. The key then also to look underneath that are the numbers. So let's say, for example, our number recently is 0274, I believe. That's RENA as a classification society have been delegated that number. Yeah, so any class society or certifying authority will be given a unique number that is underneath the wheel mark. So if you're not sure, like you see a piece of equipment on board and all you see is the number, that's the start of your detective trail, because that'll tell you, you can look that up on it, you know, Google will tell you basically which society it was. If you know, let's say it was RENA class or Lloyd's class, they then have a certification system which you can then start to investigate to get the details for that certificate.
Now, sometimes when we're given a certificate by a shipyard, we're just shown page one of maybe several pages, or it might reference even a test certificate. So can you talk us about the importance of maybe some of those subsequent documents?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, I think you're, you know, as a build team or, you know, as anyone really, the first, make sure you don't get lured into a false sense of security, because someone may say, yes, it's type approved. And generally what happens is everyone relaxes a bit, going, okay, fine, it's got a type approval. The question is what kind of type approval? First one, make sure it's marine, as I said earlier. Two, then understand the certificate. Ask to see the certificate, because generally what you get given is page one. So when you look at some of these certificates, there may be one of 2, maybe one of 3, 4, 5, depending. The first page is key, don't get me wrong. That tells you generally what the rules are followed, when it was issued and how long it's valid for, because generally they have a lifespan of the validity of these certificates. But what's key is the crux within the behind pages. So again, talk about dampers. You know, again, you get a page that says, yep, look, I've got a type approval. Awesome. But then actually what you want to know is, well, how big a damper is it? What's it approved to? Can I put it in an A-class bulkhead? Can I use it as to control smoke? Can I use it to do whatever? So those pages will also give you the installation requirements of what or where it can be used. So make sure that you get those pages so that you get the whole package. Also what you'll see is a lot of the type approval certificates, whether MED or the class approval, will reference test documentation. So if you're really unsure and you're really not happy with what the equipment is, you can either ask the yard to go and ask for the test document, or actually you probably need to go back to the manufacturer of that unique piece of equipment, who should be proud of what they've got, should be proud of the certification, because it's expensive and it's a long process, will happily go through what that product is capable of doing.
That's excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time, Ben. I think the takeaways here really are: do your diligence in looking into more details for those certificates and not just taking them on face value. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much.